Hi. So we're in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, but I'd like to ask the question, are we ready to open the door? Well, in this time of lockdown, we're told to stay home and that our best protection is to keep shut our own front door. No visitors. Keeping your door shut is the way to stay safe. This is wise advice in a time of coronavirus pandemic. Yet Revelation chapter 3 and verse 20 tells us of the blessing that's awaiting those who open the door. The risen Lord Jesus Christ is the speaker, and he's speaking to the church of Laodicea, to believers who had grown cold. And so he says to them, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him, and he with me." The thing is, Jesus Christ is no visitor. Actually, he's the master. This is true even for the unbeliever, but how much more for the believer? We often think of letting the Lord into our house, into our life, but actually, he's the master of the house. The parable that we find in Luke chapter 12 and verse 35 onwards, the parable of the serving master, takes this idea further. And there Jesus says, "Let your waist be girded and your lamps burning, and you yourselves be like men who wait for their master when he will return from the wedding, that when he comes and knocks, they may open to him immediately." So Jesus sets this scene, this picture of servants, slaves really, the lowest of servants in a house, but they're waiting for the master. And so the instruction is that they're to be ready to serve. This is indicated by the fact that their long robes are gathered up into their belt. They're girded. And the lamps are burning because they're expecting someone. Who is it? It's their master who is returning from a wedding. They need to be ready so that when he knocks, they may immediately open the door to him. So there's this picture of preparedness for service, being alert, ready for the master, waiting, watching for his coming, as servants who are prepared and longing for him to return. In fact, Jesus goes on in this next little section, verses 37 and 38, to say, "Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find watching. Assuredly, I say to you that he will gird himself and have them sit down to eat, and will come and serve them. And if he should come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants." In this section, we have these bookmarks. Blessed are those servants. And inside there's more bookmarks. He comes and finds. And right in the middle, then, is the key part of this little parable. And it's the most amazing thing that when the master arrives, wow, they've been waiting for the master to arrive. What's going to happen? When he arrives, the master will gather up his robe into his belt. He'll have the slaves sit down to eat, and the master will come to serve the slaves. What an amazing thing this is. In any culture around the world, that a master should serve slaves, servants in this way. But this is the picture, and this is the way of Jesus. You remember that in Mark chapter 10 and verse 45, Jesus said about himself, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." This is who Christ is in his being. He is the one who stepped down out of eternity. He's the one who always was the Son of God, but at Bethlehem he became the Son of Man. The one who always was the Lord of all, and yet at Calvary, that little distance away outside Jerusalem, there he gave his life a ransom for many. And so amazingly, even as we wait for the Lord and seek to open our hearts and our lives to him, the wonderful turnaround is that the Master comes to serve us. The Master comes to let us share in the wedding feast. And so he serves these slaves here. We see this picture each time when we celebrate the Lord's Supper, that the Lord calls us to come and to remember him. But as we remember the Lord, does he not draw near? Does he not feed us and help us to feast on all that he has given for us? And it all flows from him giving his life as a ransom for many. But of course, the last couple of verses here, verse 39, remind us that this is about the coming of the Son of Man. Let me just read those verses. "But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." This reminds us that it's not only allowing the Lord into our lives, but it's being ready for his coming. We will be blessed as his servants if we're ready, if we're waiting to open the door for the coming Lord of the whole universe, the one who's going to return. And even as we celebrate the Lord's Supper, we look back to the time when Christ instituted that supper and gave it to us. We remember how he served, literally, with the towel around his waist, serving his followers. But not only do we look back at the Lord's Supper, but we look forward. We look forward to the wedding feast of the Lamb, the time when Christ will come again. And he's coming. We will be blessed if we're waiting. We will be blessed if he finds us waiting and watching, ready to do his service, with our clothes, as it were, girded into our belt, ready to obey, with our lights, our witness shining bright, then will we be blessed. And what an amazing act of grace. The gospel is all about grace. And finally, we will realize the full extent of the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ when we are there through no merit of our own at the wedding feast of the Lamb. And amazingly, as we have been waiting like servants, mere slaves, for the Master coming, amazingly, the Master will serve all of what he has provided. Let's ask our hearts in this time of lockdown. Are we ready? Are we waiting? Are we ready to open the door for the Master? May God bless you.